Namaste, Danava Pranam. By the grace of our spiritual master, Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhaktimadhava Puri Maharaj, we are reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 12, Text 4. Sutta Uvacha Apipala Dharma Raja Pitravadranjayan Praja Ishvara Sarva Kamebhya Krishna Padan Usevaya. Sri Sutta Goswami said, Emperor Yudhisthira administered generously to everyone during his reign. He was exactly like his father. He had no personal ambition and was freed from all sorts of sense gratification because of his continuous service unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Purport. As mentioned in our introduction, there is a need for the science of Krishna in human society for all suffering humanity of the world, and we simply request the leading personalities of all nations to take to the science of Krishna for their own good, for the good of society, and for the good of all people of the world. So it is confirmed herein by the example of Maharaj Yudhisthira, the personality of goodness. In India, the people hanker for Rama Rajya, because personality of Godhead was the ideal king, and all other kings or emperors in India controlled the destiny of the world for the prosperity of every living being who took birth on the earth. Herein the word praja is significant. The etymological import of the word is that which is born. On the earth there are many species of life, from the aquatics up to the perfect human beings, and all are known as prajas. Lord Brahma, the creator of this particular universe, is known as Prajapati, because he is the grandfather of all who have taken birth. Thus Praja is used in a broader sense than it is now used. The king represents all living beings, the aquatics, plants, trees, reptiles, birds, animals, and man. Every one of them is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita 14.4. And the king, being representative of the Supreme Lord, is duty-bound to give proper protection to every one of them. This is not the case with the presidents and dictators of this demoralized system of administration, where the lower animals are given no protection while the higher animals are given so-called protection. But this is a great science which can be learned only by one who knows the science of Krishna. By knowing the science of Krishna, one can become the most perfect man in the world, and unless one has knowledge in his science, all qualifications and doctorate diplomas acquired by academic education are spoiled and useless. Maharaj Yudhisthira knew this science of Krishna very well, for it is stated here that by continuous cultivation of this science, or by continuous devotional service to Lord Krishna, he acquired the qualification for administering the state. The father is sometimes seemingly cruel to the son, but that does not mean that the father has lost the qualification to be a father. A father is always a father because he always has the good of the son at heart. The father wants every one of his sons to become a better man than himself. Therefore, a king like Maharaj Yudhisthira, who was the personality of goodness, wanted everyone under his administration, especially human beings who have better developed consciousness, to become devotees of Lord Krishna, so that everyone can become free from the trifles of material existence. His motto of administration was all good for the citizens, for as personified goodness, he knew perfectly well what was actually good for them. He conducted the administration on that principle, and not on the Rakshashi, demonic principle of sense gratification. As an ideal king, he had no personal ambition, and there was no place for sense gratification because all his senses at all times were engaged in the loving service of the Supreme Lord, which includes the partial service to the living beings, who form the parts and parcels of the complete whole. Those who are busy rendering service to the parts and parcels, leaving aside the whole, only spoil time and energy, as one does when watering the leaves of a tree without watering the root. If water is poured on the root, the leaves are enlivened perfectly and automatically, but if water is poured on the leaves only, the whole energy is spoiled. Maharaj Yudhisthira, therefore, was constantly engaged in service of the Lord, and thus the parts and parcels of the Lord, the living beings under his careful administration, were perfectly attended with all the comforts in this life, and all progress in the next. That is the way of perfect management of state administration. Text 5. Sampatha kritavo loka mahishi brataro mahi jambudvi padhi patyam cha yashashchatri divam gatam. News even reached the celestial planets about Maharaj Yudhisthira's worldly possessions, the sacrifices by which he would attain a better destination. His queen, his stalwart brothers, his extensive land, his sovereignty over the planet Earth, his fame, etc. Purport. Only a rich and great man's name and fame are known all over the world, and the name and fame of Maharaj Yudhisthira reached the higher planets because of his good administration, worldly possessions, glorious wife Draupadi, the strength of his brothers Bhima and Arjuna, and his solid sovereign power over the world, known as Jambudvip. Here the word loka is significant. There are different lokas or higher planets scattered all over the sky, both material and spiritual. A person can reach them by dint of his work in the present life, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.25. No forceful entrance is allowed there. The tiny material scientists and engineers who have discovered vehicles to travel over a few thousand miles in outer space will not be allowed entrance. That is not the way to reach the better planets. One must qualify himself to enter into such happy planets by sacrifice and service. Those who are sinful in every step of life can expect only to be degraded into animal life, to suffer more and more the pangs of material existence, and this is also stated in Bhagavad Gita 16.19. Maharaj Yudhisthira's good sacrifices and qualifications were so lofty and virtuous that even the residents of the higher celestial planets were already prepared to receive him as one of them. Text 6. Kim te kama surasparha mukundam hana sodvija adhijaror mudam rajna kyudhitasya yate tare. O Brahmanas, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that the denizens of heaven aspired for it, but because he was absorbed in the service of Lord, nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service. Purport. There are two things in the world which can satisfy living beings. When one is materially engrossed, he is satisfied only by sense gratification. But when one is liberated from the conditions of material modes, he is satisfied only by rendering loving service for the satisfaction of the Lord. This means that the living being is constitutionally a servitor, and not one who is served. Being illusioned by the conditions of external energy, one falsely thinks himself to be the served, but actually he is not served. He is servant of the senses like lust, desire, anger, avarice, pride, madness, and intolerance. When one is in his proper senses by attainment of spiritual knowledge, he realizes that he is not the master of the material world, but is only a servant of the senses. At that time, he begs for the service of the Lord and thus becomes happy without being illusioned by so-called material happiness. Maharaj Yudhisthira was one of the liberated souls, and therefore, for him there was no pleasure in a vast kingdom, good wife, obedient brothers, happy subjects, and prosperous world. These blessings automatically follow for a pure devotee, even though the devotee does not aspire for them. The example set herein is exactly suitable. It is said that one who is hungry is never satisfied by anything other than food. The whole material world is full of hungry living beings. The hunger is not for good food, shelter, or sense gratification. The hunger is for the spiritual atmosphere. Due to ignorance, only they think that the world is dissatisfied because there is not sufficient food, shelter, defense, and objects of sense gratification. This is called illusion. When the living being is hungry for spiritual satisfaction, he is misrepresented by material hunger. But the foolish leaders cannot see that even the people who are most sumptuously materially satisfied are still hungry. And what is their hunger and poverty? This hunger is actually for spiritual food, spiritual shelter, spiritual defense, and spiritual sense gratification. These can be obtained in the association of the Supreme Spirit, Lord Sri Krishna, and therefore one who has them cannot be attracted by so-called food, shelter, defense, and sense gratification of the material world, even if they are relished by the denizens of the heavenly planets. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, it is said by the Lord that even in the topmost planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka, where the duration of life is multiplied by millions of years by earthly calculation, one cannot satisfy his hunger. Such hunger can be satisfied only when the living being is situated in immortality, which is attained in the spiritual sky, far, far above Brahmaloka. in the association of Lord Mukunda, the Lord who awards his devotees the transcendental pleasure of liberation. Text 7. Mathur Garbha Gatovira Satada Brigunandana Tadharsha Purusham Kanchid Dhyamanostra Tejasa. O son of Brigu, Sanaka, when the child, Parīkṣit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttara, and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Asvatthama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Purport. Death generally involves remaining in a trance for 7 months. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of a father's semen, and thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in specific bodies according to one's past actions. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he wants to come out of it, and sometimes fortunately prays to the Lord for such liberation. Maharaj Parīkṣit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra released by Asvatthama, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy, and the child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parīkṣit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature, and for this reason the word viraha has been used. Text 8. Angustamatram amalam svarat puratamalinam apivya darshanam shyamam tadidvasham achutam. He, the Lord, was only thumb high, but he was all transcendental. He had a very beautiful, blackish, infallible body, and he wore the dress of lightning yellow and a helmet of blazing gold. This was seen by the child. Text 9. Śrīmad-Dirga Chaturbahum Tapta Kanchana Kundalam Kshatrajaksham Gadapanim Atmana Sarvatodisham Paribrahmantam Ulkabam Brahmayantam Gadamukha. The Lord was enriched with 4 hands, earrings of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. Purport. It is said in the Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, that the Supreme Lord Govinda, by his one plenary portion, enters into the halo of the universe and distributes himself as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, not only within the heart of every living being, but also within every atom of the material elements. Thus the Lord is all-pervading by his inconceivable potency, and thus he entered the womb of Uttara to save his beloved devotee Maharaj Parīkṣit. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.31, the Lord assured everyone that his devotees are never to be vanquished. No one can kill a devotee of the Lord because he is protected by the Lord, and no one can save a person whom the Lord desires to kill. The Lord is all-powerful, and therefore he can both save and kill as he likes. He became visible to his devotee Maharaj Parīkṣit even in that awkward position in the womb of his mother, in the shape just suitable for his vision. The Lord can become bigger than thousands of universes and can become smaller than an atom at the same time. Merciful as he is, he becomes just suitable to the vision of a limited living being. He is unlimited. He is not limited by any measurement of our calculation. He can become bigger than what we think of, and he can become smaller than what we can conceive. But in all circumstances he is the same all-powerful Lord. There is no difference between the thumb-like Vishnu in the womb of Uttara and the full-fledged Narayan in the Vaikuntha Dham, the kingdom of Godhead. He accepts the form of Archa Vigraha, worshipable deity, just to accept service from his different incapable devotees. By the mercy of the Archa Vigraha, the form of the Lord in material elements, the devotees who are in the material world can easily approach the Lord, although he is not conceivable by the material senses. The Archa Vigraha is therefore an all-spiritual form of the Lord to be perceived by the material devotees. Such an Archa Vigraha of the Lord is never to be considered material. There is no difference between matter and spirit for the Lord, although there is a gulf of difference between the two in the case of the conditioned living being. For the Lord there is nothing but spiritual existence, and similarly there is nothing except spiritual existence for the pure devotee of the Lord in his intimate relation with the Lord. Text 10. Astratejas Svagadaya Nirharam Eva Gopati Vidhamantam Sanikarshe Payakshata Ityaso. The Lord was thus engaged in vanquishing the radiation of the Brahmastra, just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew. He was observed by the child, who thought about who he was. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 11 on Wednesday, hopefully. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nishkam Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Vigyan Muni Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Isi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Arupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the worldwide devotees. Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Nishingapali Dham Ki Jai, Ekachakra Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai, from Dhavan Dham Ki Jai, Gira Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Nitai Gora Hari 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 Bol.